My name's Pat. I'm an alcoholic. Sober today with the grace of God in this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, but not always like that. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous in September 1980. That was my first meeting. I walked into the Salisbury Institute, and all the people in there were dull, colourless, and boring, and they scared me, to be honest. They scared me a bit, but I did leave that meeting, I believe, with some hope, and I thought I may be able to just not drink, and I stayed sober for a week and a day, and then went and celebrated my recovery in alcoholism. It took me 3 months to get back to Alcoholics Anonymous. At that time, I didn't realise how bad I was. I thought it was just having a bad trot. It'll go away if I don't drink for a while, and then I'll be okay. I'll just go to AA, and then I'll just flitter off and start again. Anyway, after that next 3 months of drinking, all I can remember is that I lived in a 2-bedroom flat with a bottle of beer, and myself, which is probably the worst thing for an alcoholic. We tend to isolate, and I did isolate quite a lot. But I remember walking over to Ridley Road Reserve on Sunday morning to go to the sports club, and I can remember listening to, there's a club at the end there, and I can hear the music, I'd hear the glasses chinkling and people talking, and someone says, "Don't let that guy in here." And I felt that inside me, and I felt, oh, how nasty that is. And I felt really sick and sorry because no one wants me, basically. I was just feeling really bad, as if no one wanted me. And I started to walk away. And when I looked back, there was no cars in the car park. All the doors and windows were closed at the club. There was no one around. There was no one within 200 metres of me. And I heard this voice as clear as day. Basically, the voice turned around and said, "Don't let him in here." Anyway, I got back to my flat, and there was an old fellow that lived next door. And he kept knocking on the door to see if I was okay quite a while. And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I didn't know at the time what was happening was I was going through what they call the DTs, delirium tremors. And I managed to stay there for 2 days, seeing things, talking to things, all things like this. This old fellow basically just kept me going, kept me alert. And I got to my second meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was Elizabeth. And it was up the stairs in the Sydney Chamber at that stage. And I went up there, sat in a chair, and Alec came over to me and he said, "Hey, son," he said, "have a cup of tea, everything's going to be okay." And I honestly believed it. For the first time in my life, I believed as if everything was going to be okay. I have an answer to my problem. And I saw the answer on the board. There was a banners there. The first step is that I'm powerless over alcohol. And I realized that from the day I was born to that moment, alcohol had been my primary issue in all facets of my life. Basically, at school, I used to go to school. I wasn't drinking at school early on, but I'd go to school and I'd be told not to say anything about what happened at home. Don't tell anyone about this. Don't tell them about your dad being drunk or your mum being drunk or people or things that have happened the weekend. And that put a fear in me. It put a fear in me of there was something not right. And so before I even picked up a drink, I had this anxiety and this fear. And I could remember that from a very early age. And I can remember getting into trouble as a kid. And as I got into trouble, at the age of 13, I'm drinking basically every weekend and holidays, school holidays. And that was good. Between 13 and 18, it was fantastic. It was like it was like I'd won the lottery. Wine, women, and song. Everything's fantastic. Got mates to knock around with. Go to football. Just have parties and stuff like that, and a bit of fun. And it wasn't until about 18, between 18 and 20, that things started to change. And what started to change was nothing started to change with me, but other people started getting jobs, good jobs. They were buying houses, they were getting married, they were having cars and stuff like that. But I was still in this one spot, basically going around on a bar stool and solving everybody's problems. And it became lonely. And at that stage where it became lonely, I started looking for places to go to. So I'd have the pub, then the club, then the dive, and I'd start getting into some troubles and stuff like that. And I seemed to be drunk 90% of the time. If I wasn't drunk, I was coming down or going up one or something like that. And but that didn't deter me from drinking. Nothing stopped me from drinking at that stage. And then I got to the age of, I lived like that from 18 to 23, and then I got to 23, and I thought, I need to do something about my drinking, because I was working on a job, and I was working on a prison, putting a wall around a prison, and as I left work one night, the people come in and grabbed hold of me, and they thought I'd escaped. And there was a problem with that, was that I never thoroughly understood what went on. All I knew was what they grabbed hold of me. They took me to the commander of the base anyway, and said I'd escaped from the prison. And he said, "No, it's silly. He hasn't done that." What was annoying about it was I wasn't really sure. I had to take all the steps, mental steps backwards, and work out what I was doing there, because by this time all I was living was an alcoholic stupor. I was living basically just drunk, as a drunk. And then I realized my life's going nowhere, so I should get married. And if I get married, she can look after me. That was my thoughts. Anyway, I found a lady that I could marry. Married her over in England. Came over to Australia, and all this time, everything that happened was things were going to be different. Everything was going to be different, and that was basically my anthem was, "Oh, it'll be better next time. Everything will be better next time." And next time never came, because I was one of these people that once I had a drink, I didn't stop till I collapsed. Basically, went into a blackout. Something happened, and then I'd get up again, and I'd do the same thing again next week. It was the tomatoes. It was the crisp I ate. It was the wrong pub I was in. I shouldn't have drank that lager. I should have had this scotch, that sort of thing. And I was trying all these excuses out to why I wasn't well, or why I was falling over, and why I was getting into not a lot of trouble, as much as a lot of mental angst over. And the mental angst would be the anxiety, fear of who's after me, who's not after me. I'm running to something. I'm either running to something or running away from something. And getting married didn't help. Changing jobs didn't help. Anyway, my wife left. She took the kids, and that initially I thought, what a great idea. She can take the kids and that, and I can still work. I'll have more to drink. It's as simple as that. And that's how I ended up in a 2-bedroom flat with a bottle of beer. Anyway, when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, they've got a program in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's called the 12-step program. They showed me that I need not be alone again, which was so important, because I thought alcohol was not a problem. I thought I was lonely, and I never realized I had this illness. I never realized I had this disease, and which was an allergy of alcohol with an obsession of the mind. And because I used to go to work, and I could work out my wages in booze before I even got paid. Now, I didn't know who to pay back, or the people I owed money to, or this. And I had this sort of lifestyle where I lived to the next six-pack, or lived to the next drink, and all that sort of thing. And I would think about it days before or weeks before, just how I was going to do, what I was going to do on the weekend, where I was going to go, how I was going to drink. And I remember one day, and the wife wasn't a very good financial, advisor in the house. So I thought I'd take care of the finances, and I'll save some money. And I did. I went out and I bought all gold and black, or black and gold, whatever it's called, and I saved something like $5 on the groceries, which was only $5 for my drinking. That was how selfish and self-centered I was. I never realized that until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. How selfish I was, how self-centered, how I disregarded people, to be honest, just to get a drink. And so AA's basically what they've done to me is they've said to me, look, you can come in here, you can stay sober if you want to stay sober, or you can change your life. And there were choices that were given to me. I mean, I'd never had choices before. And some of the choices were, my life was unmanageable, you know, and I'm thinking, my life can't be that unmanageable. I'm just about hanging on to a job. I'm doing okay. I'm getting some money in. I'm doing this and this. But it wasn't because of that. It was I had no routine in my life. I had no consistency in my life. I had to put routine and some sort of consistency in my life. When I said to people, I'm going to do something, I do it, which I never used to do while I was drinking. It was like, I'll meet you next week sometime, or I'll see you over there. It was always vague sort of stuff. Alcoholics Anonymous showed me that I need never live the way I was living. And I suppose I started to exercise, started to run, started to play sport, started to put things into my life. And it was a mental, physical, and spiritual condition that I was treating, because they told me that. And I'm thinking, yeah, and I've heard all this before, but when I think about it, I went back to school and back to TAFE, and I went in there, and I honestly felt really, dumb. I don't know anything. Teach me something, you know. I didn't understand how bad I was. Anyway, when I got there, I suddenly the teacher told me, they said there's not much wrong with you. You could go in higher learning if you want to. So I did, and I went back and I got some computing certificates and some workplace certificates for training and stuff. And I was able to get another job. I was able to change jobs. And when I changed jobs, I changed up. So I was getting better money. I was looking after myself. I ended up getting married again after the divorce, the first divorce. I got married again, bought a house, started to put some things into the community. I went round to sports clubs and was able to help out at some of those sports clubs and that. I was able to help out in Alcoholics Anonymous. So my life had changed. In a short period of time, my life had changed, and it started to change for the better. And it always has done ever since I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the only thing I've ever done is just not drink and try to apply the program into my life. If anybody has a drinking problem, I would suggest just go and see what an AA meeting's about. Just go and have a look at what the 12 steps are about. Talk to someone about it if you think you have a problem. And that's all the advice I was given, was my disease festers when I'm silent. My disease festers when I don't tell anyone. And there's a thing up there, there's a poster up at one of the meetings, which you're only sick as your secrets. And I honestly believe that in Alcoholics Anonymous, the people do share. They share about how it was, what happened, and what it's like now. And for me, how it was that I basically was born into an Irish Catholic home. I was we had more beer than bread. Life was not the best, but we got through it. I started work, couldn't put a drink down, and then when I was able to put a drink down with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, what happened then was that I was able then to make choices in my life of how I wanted to live. And when I was drinking, I couldn't make a choice because I was tied to the bottle, basically. That's what was happening. Every time I tried to do something, greatest intentions in the world to do something. And what would happen was I would fall flat on my face every time, because I also like to self-destruct. I can get up so high and then go, bang, I hate you people, whoa, go and get away. And I had a lot of anger inside me. And while I was drinking, I couldn't shift that. Once I stopped drinking and noticed what was going on with me, it was easier to start to, I suppose, to enjoy the community, to go out and think to yourself, I can help here. I can do something about it. Because I never thought I could help anyone. Never thought I would be useful to anyone. I always thought I was hopeless and helpless. And they were the thoughts that would go through most of the time. But I changed those today. I learned to change my thoughts. There is hope out there for me. There is a way of life out there that I can live and enjoy my life and have success in my life. There's people that come into Alcoholics Anonymous today, and I've seen them come in, and they're doing degrees in anything they want to. They just go back to school, and they learn They learn that alcohol is a disease, but then they want to become lawyers, they want to become doctors, they want to become whatever. They go back and do this thing, you know. They put the drink down and they start to educate themselves. And they educate themselves in a way where they can help people. And Alcoholics Anonymous is a program for help. It's a program for love, tolerance, as integrity, you know. You have to be willing. There's just a lot of discipline in it, self-discipline. And all these things that I never seemed to have when I was drinking started to come in. Honesty, a bit of courage, a bit of perseverance. I became very resilient, and I know I'm resilient. I know I'm disciplined in my life, so that what happens is that if I have an issue or something like that, I have a sponsor I can go to. I have someone I can talk to. If I have an issue, I can put things into my life. I stop. I think. I do things. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I used to do them. Then I would stop and think, I better run. And that was the way life was then. But AA has actually turned everything around, turned it all around, and it's given me some values, some good human values. I have a beautiful wife today. I have a home, children. They're all in my life. All the children from my first marriage, grandchildren, stuff like that. I enjoy it. I enjoy my life today. On the whole, my life is a lot better today because I can accept myself. And that's what it is. It was not accepting everything else, but accepting myself. Learning to surrender and let things go was very hard initially. But once I let them go, I could accept myself and my own capabilities, don't put my ambitions before my abilities and accept what's coming down. Once I've done that, I feel as if I can move on. And that's in every situation. I just stop, I think, and then I'll do something. AA's been wonderful for me. There's a lot of people I know in AA in this area, Salisbury, Elizabeth. I would say in this area there may be over 50 people, 60 people. I would say that Adelaide wide, maybe 1,000, maybe 800, 1,000 people. The new thing today is the Zoom meetings. I've seen people in a Zoom meeting, an AA meeting, 1,000 people, 800 people from worldwide, and that's just on one meeting. So the organisation or the AA itself, even though we're individuals, together we make a difference. And you don't need to join as per I'm an AA thing. You need AA is for the individual. It's not for the group. It's the individual that counts. Every member of Alcoholics Anonymous can live the way they choose to live. We don't have any limits on what they do or not. You know, if they want to drink, they can drink. There's no problem there. If they want to stay sober, they can stay sober. You know, but they'll only get so many chances. And I've seen people come into Alcoholics Anonymous who have been here 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and they've been sober for a certain period of time. And then when they come back in, they're worse off because they've gone out and drank again. AA is about abstinence. The trick is that what you want to do? Initially, no one wants to be abstinent. And so what you do is you live a day at a time, one day at a time. If you can stay sober for one day, you've got a good chance. And that's all it's about, one day at a time. And if people do that when they come in, they've got a good chance because what they do is they get some clarity of thought and they're able to make those choices I was talking about earlier on. They're able to make choices in their own lives of how they want to live, what they want to do. And that's all it is. That's all it is just being able to make those choices, getting that clarity of thought. So once you realise that alcohol is a problem and you want to do something about it, it's just a matter of basically going to the group of drunks and asking them for help. And that's the hardest part. The hardest part is going into an AA meeting. The hardest part is walking in there because no matter what happens, that's the first step of humility. To turn around and say, hey, I need help. You know? And there's a lot of people that do it. Some of them don't stay. Some of them go off sometimes and have their own businesses and stuff like that, and they live quite well. But most people stay with Alcoholics Anonymous because it's the place they find, I suppose, their truth. No one else has only their own truth.
Just curious, one of the questions that I thought everyone wonders about: have you ever slipped off of the wagon?
I've not had a drink since December the 16th, 1980. I've not had an alcoholic drink since December the 6th, 1980. It's not to say I did from the first meeting, when I still about the first meeting. In September 1980, when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, my actually impression of Alcoholics Anonymous was, it's the Addams family and I don't want to join. That was what it was. That was my impression of it. But I did stay sober for a week and a day, so I knew it worked.
Do you think everyone who approaches one of these meetings feels that way, that scared?
It's not fear. It's initially you would think it's fear, but you're driven in. You're driven in by. I'll go back to that and say you're driven in by fear, and you'll stay sober for a while on fear. But once you start getting better, you get well enough to get sick enough to drink again. That's what a lot of alcoholics did. I did it. You know, a lot of them that you will talk to, they will say they've been a few times, they've been here a few times, because what happens is it's working. It's working with the disease, but once you get well, you can get well enough to get sick enough to drink again. That's basically what happens, and then you see them coming back after time, or maybe they're hospitalised. There's times where I've seen people just go straight to hospital, or they go to a clinic or something and don't get out. There's places like Glenside have wards for alcoholic patients. You know, there used to be a place called Hillcrest when I first came in, and that was full of alcoholics. And they were in different stages of alcoholism. There was a Korsakoff's disease, which is basically a walking vegetable. It's water on the brain, from what I can understand, and that's what alcohol does to them. It makes them, they're in stupors, walking zombies, basically. And then you've got the guy that wants to get sober, and he'll come and he'll go to meetings, they do really well. And there's some people in Alcoholics Anonymous that just go to meetings and don't do anything, you know, and they stumble every now and then. But the choice is theirs. Once they get sober, they get to a point where they have to make a choice, and that's what happens in life as well. We all grow up, well, somewhere along the line, but it depends when. You know, that's not up to us. When people turn around and say, "Oh, look, I'm going to change my life," that's not up to Alcoholics Anonymous. We're not saying we're going to change your life. What will happen is you may want to change your life. And no one ever forced me into Alcoholics Anonymous. No one ever forced the program down my throat. Matter of quite the opposite, you know. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is basically we're a group of people that share our experience, strength, and hope with each other to help other alcoholics gain sobriety. That's what it is, and that in itself is what the worldwide organization's about. It's one alcoholic helping another, and then later on in life they'll help someone else, and so on and so forth. I think the organization of Alcoholics Anonymous started in '33. It's now 80 years old or something like that. No, it's about 70 odd years old, and that's over many countries. In every country I can think of, there's a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. But maybe, and I couldn't quote on this, but something like maybe 1 million or 2 members. You know, so you're looking at an organisation that all they've done is spread the message, and the message is basically stay sober and life can be okay. They spread the message by word of mouth. there's no great advertising for it or anything else. I suppose nowadays, what they have now is everybody has a rehab, so I think that helps them. But I go back to when I came in. The only rehab was Hillcrest Hospital, and at that stage, most of those people in there were chronic alcoholics. Most of those people in there were either chronic alcoholics, or there was other people there that actually went from institution to institution, and it was hard for a lot of people then. But when I say hard for a lot of people, the only reason Alcoholics Anonymous was hard is when people fight against it. That's what I mean. Yeah, you've got to give in to win, if you can understand that. Right? It's a paradox, and it's like that. Alcoholism is like that. It's a paradox. They ask you to do the opposite of what you were doing when you were drinking. And to be honest with you, I'm glad I'm doing the opposite to what I was doing when I was drinking. It's a good life. It's a good life today. It went from a shambles to a good life. You grow up in an alcoholic home, and I suppose at 5 and 6 years of age, you're getting your father off someone who's fighting in the street and stuff like that, and then you're fighting in the street at 14, 15 years of age, where there's music goes on a Sunday afternoon, wake up all the neighbours, who cares, all this sort of thing. That was the madness and mayhem of alcoholism. The madness and mayhem of the alcoholism is, who cares? Who gives a stuff? And off they go. And maybe when I talk about myself most of the time, maybe sometimes we need to change. Sometimes we need to just change our attitudes towards each other, towards mankind, and life becomes easier.
I might just run through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly lived it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. We have local meetings for the full week in the local area. Monday is Gala meeting at 8 o'clock. Tuesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Wednesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Thursday is Two Wells at 8 o'clock. And Friday is Salisbury at 8 o'clock. There's a meeting at Daveron Park at 12 o'clock. And on Sunday there's a meeting in Salisbury at 7 o'clock. And many other meetings in the area. For details of your local meetings, please phone 1300 22 2222. And once again, if anyone you know is struggling with alcohol issues, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 22 2222 or check out their website on aa.org.au.